The NewsNite panel is back this week, and we talk about crime and punishment, economic development and city legislation, and education and athletics. That's next on NewsNite. Good evening. Welcome to NewsNite for the Ides of March. It's March 15th. And there's a lot of news to talk about, and that's one of the reasons we decided to reconvene a NewsNite panel from past seasons of NewsNite. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome Phil Trexler, ace crime reporter for the Beacon Journal, Stephanie Warsmith, who does such a great job covering Akron City Council and all things community, and Ed Esposito, Vice President of Rubber City Radio Group, and heard on the radio in the mornings with Jeff Kinsbach, WONE.
97.5.
97.5.
We got all the spiffs in.
You have all the rock, yeah. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to have you back.
Good to be back.
We want to talk, at least in the first segment, maybe about crime and punishment. And I want to start with Richard Beasley, who was the Craigslist killer, one of the Craigslist killers. He was found guilty this week. Any surprises?
No, not at all. There was just a ton of evidence that the prosecutors had to work with. So much, in fact, that they didn't even need to bring in the co-defendant, the Stowe teenager.
I was going to ask about that. Why didn't they bring Brogan in?
He was actually here. He was at the Medina County Jail. That's where they were keeping him in the event that he was called in. But I think they just decided they had such a overwhelming amount of evidence here, and based on what the defense was, Jim Burden's a hell of an attorney.
And I thought he did a pretty good job.
Well, I think he did, trying to kind of do the duck and feint on the motorcycle gang snitch defense, which clearly the jury didn't buy, which I don't know anyone really bought, because it didn't. It was trying to shift attention away from the crimes, but it never said Beasley didn't do the killings.
Right. He said basically saying about I don't know nothing about the first three, but the last guy tried to kill me. I'm a victim here.
This would be the last guy who testified against him in court.
Exactly.
Right. Whose part of his testimony was actually backed up by the property owner.
I did think that you had this Brogan Rafferty there waiting in jail, poised to testify, but I never quite understood what would be his motivation for testifying, unless they were offering him some sort of deal, which they had during his trial. Or at the conclusion of it, but it collapsed there, and I believe it's because the Attorney General's office wouldn't go along with it. But they were ready to plead the teenager to 30 years to life in prison, and yet the judge obviously slammed him with a life with no parole, which some folks thought was a little over the top. But I didn't quite understand what his motivation would be to testify against Beasley, unless there was some sort of plea deal offering maybe a different sentencing.
Unless he's right, he wants to get right with God, and he wants to go in and talk about what he did.
You do that after your appeals are exhausted, and he still has appeals pending. So,
but I had heard that he might come in this coming week for the mitigation phase of the trial. It's a death penalty case, and so the jury has to decide at this point, do they not, whether or not to
starting on Wednesday of next week.
Right. Okay, and that's generally going to be just a psychiatrist perhaps testifying about Beaslly. They're trying to come up with reasons why not to execute him, and so his mother may testify. I know she was a potential witness there, and boy, I feel bad for her. She's Carol Beasley was a wonderful lady. I've met her a couple of times, talked to her on the phone often, and retired school employee secretary, very popular. And from my understanding is that she is funding her son's defense.
Right.
And Jim Burden does not come cheap. So they're spending a lot of money, and I just think it was sad because Beasley had court-appointed attorneys who, Brian Pierce is one of the best defense attorneys in town, and he was getting them for free. And Pierce is one of the guys who Jimmy DeMora was looking at to hire. Right. That's how good he is. And so I think it's sad to see Carol Beasley having to endure what she did, a woman her age, and
well, she has to use her retirement money to pay for this.
Yeah, and it's sad. It really is because they were going into this trial. I think everyone supposed that this was going to be a slam dunk for the prosecution, just based on the mounds of evidence here. Sure. The computers and the videos and eyewitness accounts and whatnot. So, Jim Burden did what he could do with the scraps that he was thrown, but it was difficult. Yeah.
Phil, I want to talk about a story that you broke this week about Officer Donald Shishmanis. Am I saying that? Shishmanis.
Menos.
Okay. Explain to our viewers what's going on here. He's been on a paid leave.
Yeah, we have quite a history there. We first wrote about the officer back in 2010, when there was an incident there where a woman was videotaping him making an arrest, and he seized the camera against the advice or orders of his sergeant. And
you need to point out she was on her property at the time too.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you can videotape an officer doing their job.
Right. But she was like standing on her lawn.
Right. But not only did he seize the camera, but he had her arrested,
right.
And she spent time in jail over this. So, anyways, that's when the background there. But he also became the focus of a criminal investigation done by the state, and that was placed on paid leave back in August of 2011. So he's been getting paid over $83,000 in this since then. And who knows where this investigation is, because neither side seems to know. The state's saying we're done. It's in the hands of APD, and APD says no, the state's not done. So,
why does an investigation of any sort take 19 months?
How long the investigation of Jimmy DeMora take? I mean, that took years. So, I mean, the time it takes to do an investigation, I think you want to make sure it's thorough. But to Phil's point, I mean, supposedly the State Attorney General's office says last October we're done. There's no charges that are going to be filed. Mm-hmm. But prosecutors here and the police chief here say no, it's still in the state. I mean, you kind of wonder, do those guys have each other's phone number, or something like that? And it just, it does take a long time. The issue necessarily isn't how long it takes to get justice at this point or to do a thorough investigation. It's whether one side knows what the other is doing. Mm-hmm. And if one tells the Beacon Journal that, hey, we're done with this, how come the others don't respond to it?
Well, and the fact that in Phil's story that the union president said that none of the investigators have actually talked to Shizminos during this time.
And it's still going, that means that the internal investigation hasn't even really started.
Right.
So that's going to extend this thing. It'll probably be August of this year before any resolution.
Can he retire on unpaid leave? I mean, at this point,
why should he retire? He's under investigation. This is his name. I mean, to play devil's advocate on his behalf, they have an investigation they're doing against him. They haven't proven a case against him yet. You have the right to be, on paid leave while they're doing this. So if they're taking forever to do this, he has a lightning rod. I mean, he's clearly a political lightning rod. The mayor actually expanded some of the disciplinary action against him, coming out of the camera case, the camera arrest case, for lack of a better term. He's a very aggressive police officer, former member of the gang unit. At one time he was kind of Starsky and Starsky and Hutchish, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of a super cop on Akron's force. Some of his critics would say he was out of control. Phil, you've done a lot of reporting on this, on his background there. So he is kind of a lightning rod, and it's, it lends itself to, charges of, or at least supposition that are there political motivations behind this? Why is it taking so long? The mayor clearly doesn't want to hire him back. I don't know if the police chief does. So in this case, they may be doing a very thorough investigation because they want to make sure whatever they use sticks if they don't want him back.
Well, and what I'd like to do is we're going to have to take this discussion to the extended edition of Newsnight. But what I want to talk about on that is have you catch us up on the Doug Prade situation. He's been out of jail now for 6 weeks, and I'm not sure where that stands. So we will take this discussion to newsnight.net.
For more Newsnight content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at newsnight.net.
We are back, and I do want to remind you that sometimes some of the best discussions happen on newsnight.net. But right now we want to turn our discussion to maybe some City Hall types of things. Steph, just this week, Akron City Council passed legislation that's going to make it a little more interesting to drive in Akron, the texting legislation. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, it was a busy night at City Hall Monday night for them and for me, since I was covering it. But they passed a law that makes it a crime in Akron to text while you drive, which the state had already done. But Akron was actually considering legislation that would have been even tougher than the state's, that would have allowed a police officer to pull over an adult for texting, even if they weren't doing something else wrong.
As a primary offense.
Right, as a primary offense.
Okay.
But they did back off of that because they got a big backlash against that idea. And instead they went with what the state had done, which is a secondary offense. And they also built in some extra provisions in there where part of the fees from anyone who's convicted will go toward an educational campaign. And I'll be writing more about that once I find out how they're going to educate us on the dangers of texting while driving. So this at least brought an end to something that had been kind of out there for a while, with people really on both sides. People that think that texting while driving, is something that they need to crack down on, and then other people who thought, hey, they're being too extreme in what they're talking about doing.
But it also has a component, does it not, for children or young people
right.
under 18, I think it is?
Right. The police, it's a primary offense for young people, which my students at Kent State don't think is fair, by the way. They think that I should be pulled over just like them.
They must have seen you drive when you're texting.
Yes. Well, I do try to put it down here. So, and there are people that think that is unfair. Why is it that it's a primary offense just for juveniles and not for adults? And I think, and Mike Williams said this, that the city and the state are probably going to be watching this for a while and deciding, should we take that extra step and make, crack down on everybody.
If the goal is safety, okay, which I think is the reason that this is being enacted, why did it not come out as a primary offense?
There were some objections, I think, from the African American community in Akron that
what kind of objections?
That they felt that this was just another means for the police to target black motorists.
Does this go back to what you were saying in the extended discussion about maybe some distrust?
Yeah,
in the
absolutely. I've met with a lot of members of the community, and one of the things they talked about last week during a focus group we talked about was how often they're pulled over by the police. They talk about teenagers walking down the street who are stopped and flagged and questioned just for walking down the street. There was a guy there in his 20s. I asked him, how many times have you been pulled over by the police? He said at least a dozen times. And I'm thinking to myself, how many times have I been stopped? And it was like, 3, in 30 years. So, it does go to some distrust there. However, the texting thing, I don't think the police need any more reasons to pull people over. That's not going to make any difference. The difference is the texting is really a dangerous situation, and someone who's texting is far more, or at least equal to, a drunk driver in terms of being attentive. And it's unfortunate that it can't be a primary offense in all cases.
One of the other things that happened at City Hall this week goes back to the Larry Modig situation, the veteran who had a home demolished by the city. Tell us about that. I want all three of you to kind of weigh in on this, because it's an interesting situation where the city's kind of gone above and beyond.
It's got so many facets on it, and so many of them are driven by politics, but also it's just kind of a weird case to begin with, where a guy buys a piece of property, and the piece of property has all sorts of troubles. Even if you look at the document that the mayor's office provided on the disclosure form, which I had made the point a while back, I don't even know why the city needs new legislation or a new law saying you have to disclose what you're doing to sell. The state's had one for years. So,
John. Why does the city need texting legislation if the state has?
Well, I was going to say the same thing. I don't get why they're doing this unless
they made it a criminal offense. So now they can, as well as going after you civilly, it's a crime. Like, you can call the cops and say.
So you couldn't do that with the state law?
I believe it was a civil thing. You could go after somebody civilly. I'm not.
Oh no, you're talking about Modig now, or the?
I'm talking about I'm talking about the thing about you have to disclose if there are pending violations. Housing violations against your house if you're selling it. But
the form was, Huffnagel signed the form and said there were problems with the house. If you look at the form, he says there were problems with the heating and with the plumbing and with the electrical. The other thing, though, is he checked the mark and said there were no legal problems with it. There were no challenges regarding zoning or anything else like that. And the city maintains there were violations about that, so he wasn't being honest in disclosing. And his signature and the signature of his wife, Pauline, are on that document, as well as Larry Modig's. So, what the city has maintained, specifically what the mayor's maintained, is that Modig is the victim in all this, because he was sold a house that, was already scheduled to be, had troubles. and it wasn't fully disclosed. So then sudden, he finds himself with a $10,000 piece of property here that he bought that he wanted to renovate, and now it's not worth a bucket of warm spit, to use an old political phrase. So then it gets torn down. So he's making the argument on this, but then you throw in the political the wins here of it's Don Plisquelic versus Warner Mendenhall.
Well, I was going to ask you, why is the city coming down on Modic's behalf? He has a lawyer.
Well, he has a lawyer who hasn't filed anything against Larry Huffnagel, who's the former. I mean, in that, I think the mayor does have an interesting point, which is, if you buy a piece of property and it turns out to be a bum piece of property, how come you're not going after the property owner who sold it to you?
Well, that's what he was saying. Don't sue me, sue the property
Don't sue
owner.
me, sue Huffnagel, sue the title company, sue the bank that was responsible for all this.
But is it the place of the city to file on behalf of a private citizen?
The mayor says it's in the case on that because it's been made a political issue, and plus the city spent $8,000, more than $8,000 to tear it down.
Well, the
so
city should go after them for that. The city should go after them for the demolition, but the city can't represent a citizen in a civil action like that. It's just,
why not?
Because it sets a bad precedent.
That doesn't set a bad
He's
precedent.
Already got a lawyer.
Government agencies go off on behalf of private citizens
on
all
one
the time.
private citizen?
When they cherry pick cases, sure they do.
Name one.
It's worth saying,
how about the
I don't
U.S.
think
Attorney
it's gonna,
General's office doesn't go out in favor of other or front file of the courts? They do this all the time.
I don't think it's
I
going
don't
to
recall
happen,
one.
though. I mean, the city has said that they're only going to do this if Larry Modic says that he wants the city's help, and Warner Mendenhall has said,
he doesn't want
it. We've had plenty of help from the city. Thank you very much. So
and this is not really,
I don't think it's going to happen.
This is all about the mayor showing the public, hey, I'll do what Warner Mendenhall should have done,
right.
and that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to shame Mendenhall.
Well, but this is also, but Warner hasn't filed, anything protecting Larry Modic against the former property owner yet. He tells me that he's got plenty of time to do that. Warner clearly is very interested in making a point because he thinks the city doesn't have legal authority anymore to demolish houses because of the language and the back and forth on moving the building inspection offices to the county and moving the health inspection to the county as well. And he says it's just confused. I mean, this really does become one of those legal lawyer, you didn't cross this T, you didn't dot these I arguments. That's kind of where Warner's coming from. The mayor's coming from, hey, your client here is got screwed by the former property owner who didn't disclose. You should be going after him.
Well, and he should be going after him. Not the city, though. A city attorney then is going to represent Mr. Modic in this civil action against the former property owner.
Sure.
You don't have a problem with that?
No.
Well, the city also filed action, though, to go after the former property owner to recover the demolition costs.
Right. That's a different issue.
Yeah,
that's
the
different
other
issue.
thing that happened.
That's a different. The city can't go after that guy to claim it. That's fine. But to represent Mr. Modic in a civil action, I don't know. Warner's pointed out things in the charter that says that that's not appropriate, and I don't see how it can be.
But the interesting thing is, I think, from what I have read, Mr. Modic does have an opportunity for another house. There's a fund that has been set up, and so he's going to eventually have a house.
Well, but I want to because they use it as a fundraising opportunity. So they have people that have given money to this to help them get another house.
Well, okay, but what I want to do is I want to talk about some people who may not have a house, and unfortunately we're out of time for this segment, so we're going to take our discussion to the extended edition. I want to talk about the Mayflower Manor in downtown and what's going to happen with the people who live there.
That's a nice tease. Boy, people are going to go to the web in droves on this one.
Oh, I hope so, and that will be on newsnight.net.
On newsnight.net, we cover a broader range of topics than we can on the air in 27 minutes. Join us online at newsnight.net.
We are back for our final segment of Newsnight on March 15th, and I want to talk about education and athletics. Start with education. There was news that Ginger Baylor, who is an elected school board member for Akron Public Schools, has stepped down to take a job with Marcia Fudge. And so the board is now left with having to replace her. What's going on with that search?
They've got over a dozen people, I think,
16?
have indicated an interest in it, so they'll winnow that down and decide what they want to do. They'll probably look with an eye towards someone who can run and is actually electable and is interested in showing some interest in it.
Okay. Any idea who may have applied of the 16 people?
I have heard no suspects
I haven't seen
names at all.
I've not heard.
Right.
But it's the board who makes the decision based on the applicants.
Right.
Right.
Okay. You had a story this weekend in terms of this, well, it was on social media. about Akron Public Schools, and a former groundskeeper.
This is a bizarre case. This is a fellow by the name of Scott Bennett who had a criminal record. Didn't fully disclose it on his application. Was
it like assault or?
It was for assault.
Okay.
So and it was he had pled down to a misdemeanor for his conviction, but he didn't disclose it. He said there wasn't room on the application sheet to disclose it. So by the time the district got around to doing the background check, which in reality they should have done it earlier, but by the time they got around to do it, and I don't think he was a very popular employee, they decided to fire him. So the argument when they went back in front of the court was that the way the state law reads is, school boards aren't supposed to hire people with felony records, or you have pretty much school boards are told not to hire crooks, especially people that beat people up, which he was accused of with an assault.
Because you're dealing with kids.
Anybody with kids, I'll ask, you guys have kids, I don't. You want your kids going to school with someone who's got an assault record? I know you don't.
There are probably worse records out there.
I mean, your kid goes to Kung Fu, so
I think
he's ready to go.
It's just the real troubling part is that he didn't reveal it on his application.
He didn't reveal it on his application. So
and there was basically the court saying that's okay.
Well, what the court said was, is the way the state law reads is that school boards can take into account whether or not the employee was rehabilitated. So the thing is they said, well, you can take into account whether or not they've been rehabilitated. And then various other commissions now have held, well, you didn't take into account that he should have been rehabilitated, so you should put him back to work. So only lawyers come up with stuff like this, where you have one state law says you can't hire people with criminal records, and another state law says you can hire people with criminal records, but only if you can consider that they can be rehabilitated. And then you go to the courts that say, well, this commission, this board can tell you to rehire this person, but it doesn't say you have to rehire this person. Well, now the Akron Civil Service Commission came in and said you have to rehire them. I don't quite understand that one, because when you look at the state law, even the court decisions, and the main court decision was written by Claire Dickinson on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where he talks about how you have the power to consider rehabilitation. So the question wasn't whether or not you rehire them. The question was whether or not the Civil Service Commissions had the right to say you should rehire them. And they do. And then the Civil Service Commissions came in and said, you need to rehire them. So what essentially is going to happen is the school board is going to rehire them, pay $150,000 in back pay. Yeah, an attorney's going to get a chunk of that too. And then they're going to fire him again because he lied on his original application. And he's got a horrible background record.
But then is it going to be in the court again? If they rehire him and then fire him?
Yeah, I can see now in the NewsNite audience there's 500 attorneys raising their hands on this because they see this as easy money and easy pickings.
In the meantime, we've got a school district, like other school districts around the state,
right,
that has to pony up this kind of money when they can't afford money for teachers or textbooks or iPads.
But the bigger question is it's almost as though you have case law now that says you have to rehire him because a commission said that you had to rehire him because you should have taken into consideration whether or not he could be rehabilitated. On the other hand, you have state law here that says you can't hire him or you shouldn't hire him. So this is, it's the catch-22 of working through the government maze.
One other school issue, though, I want to bring up real quick, and that was something that happened in Medina just this past week when the superintendent was given, $83,000 bonus pay or incentive pay, and then it went away.
Well, he gave it back, and he also gave back some of the step increases and the increases he had. He had over a 5-year contract. The whole package that he gave up was worth $100,000.
But he gave it back because there was enough of an outcry in the community.
Well, it wasn't an outcry. People were raising some honest-to-God serious hell about this.
Yeah, an organized effort against it.
Now, the teachers did vote this week on their contract, which included pay freezes and increased health care co-pays. The teachers did vote yes on that, so that's one thing down. But the big concern in Medina right now is they have a school levy coming up in May, and they have a lot of people that are honked off there, and they're voters.
We reported today that Lesser Luffin got $104,000.
$104,450.
Yes, bonus. So I don't know if there's
Not
any
that
outrage
we
of
were
that,
paying
or whether
attention.
he's considering repaying that.
Well, wasn't it yesterday? Wasn't it yesterday that we learned that Akron U's enrollment is down, and as a result, they're going to be in the hole?
Sure. $27 million
There's a lot of
forecast
concern there about
still.
their enrollment. Has it peaked, and where it's going?
And I think half of that money was lost stimulus money too, because of the sequester.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay, talking about Akron U, we have to give a shout out and a congratulations to Keith Dambrot, named MAC Coach of the Year. So congratulations, Keith. Well deserved.
Big game tonight up at the Q, by the way.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about a dream team that he had, and then it all kind of fell apart last week.
Up in smoke.
Yeah, that was something.
Oh, you knew I was
bad. That was
Come
bad.
on.
But yeah, I'll tell you what, a lot of people were really excited about the Akron U's chances going into the not only the MAC tournament, but also getting a bid to the NCAA, and then it did. It really shocked to the university when their star point guard and their quarterback, basically for their team, Alex Abreu, was arrested by
It's a shame.
by narcotics officers accepting a 5-pound package of marijuana. It is a shame, and it's unfortunate for the young man. It's unfortunate for the community, and
for Coach Dambrot.
And for Coach Dambrot, yeah, I'm sure it broke his heart.
He's
I
close to this
tweeted
kid,
I was
too.
amazed too to see Robert Meeker show up in court to represent the young poor Mr. Abreu. I understand Mr. Meeker's been retained, and I've also contacted the university, and I've been told that they are aware of the situation, and they're monitoring it, and they want to make sure that no violations have occurred here in terms of how Mr. Abreu is affording Mr. Meeker, who we all know has defended millionaires' wives in murder trials before. So Mr. Meeker is one of the prominent men. So.
Okay, in 30 seconds left. What are the chances that Akron U can beat either Kent or Buffalo and advance, and then play one more game and win it?
Well, we're taping this on Thursday morning, so we don't know.
We don't know whether it'll be Buffalo or Kent, but
both teams beat Akron. Down the stretch.
Buffalo
ended
and nobody beats Ohio U. That's the bottom line.
Akron U beat Ohio U.
I think
with Abreu.
I do think the loss of Abreu really changes the whole focus of the team.
Well, I want to thank you guys very much for being with us, and the next time we convene, we'll hopefully know whether Akron goes to the NCAA March Madness.
We better know by then.
Go Zips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for joining us
Go Flash.
on Newsnight.